percent overall from the field, but he was also 50% from threes. He's 5 of 10.
I know you're out there. It's okay. Stand back there.
No, more than likely, you're going to get that number 1 seed. And so I want Houston to be ranked at number 1 and 8.
Welcome into another episode of Let's Rage Coogs, presented by the Saxenian family. We're coming off the heels of the Shriners Children's Charleston Classic semifinals game, in which the 6th-ranked Houston Cougars came out victorious 76-66 over the Utah Utes. Joining me, as always, Dayon, Dunlap, Kris, Gardner. How y'all doing?
Doing great, man. How are y'all? Good to see you, Andy.
I'm doing great. Appreciate it, Kris.
I'm doing good as well, man. Glad it's Friday.
I mean, I saw Dayon last night. It's been a while since we've seen you, Andy, but always good, man.
Yes,
Real quick,
sir.
man, if I might say this, because I noticed on social media that there are other shows that are also doing post-game shows right now with us. So thank you to the fans who are with Let's Rage Coogs, the original, as Dayon said and Andy said, the original post-game show for Houston Athletics. Thank you very much for joining us.
If someone's not copying you, then you're not doing nothing right. Being copied is a compliment. I love it.
There you go.
It's the most sincerest form of flattery. But let's get into the game in itself. I think we can all agree that this has been the toughest test up to this point so far for the Houston Cougars to begin their young 2023-24 season. And give credit to Utah. They did a good job of giving Houston issues, and their guards, Kelvin Sampson, after the game was joking with the ESPN TV broadcast about how couldn't prepare for two guards where their guards were 6'10" and 7 feet. He was kind of poking fun at how really versatile Utah's guards were. But the Houston Cougars, the biggest thing that they did well in this game was closing out the halves. And going back to the first half, it was tied 26-all, and they ended the first half on, I believe it was a 13-4 run to lead by 9 at the break. Same thing in the second half when Utah came all the way back, tied the game, and Houston was able to push and extend and ultimately win by double digits. And a big credit to that, their guard play specifically when it comes to the backcourt in Jamal Shead and LJ Cryer.
Dan, I want to give you props for you wanted this in our previous Let's Rage Coug shows. You wanted to see how the team responded when they were tested, and the game was tied at 56, and they responded. You know,
They did.
Coach went to Terrence Arsenault after a timeout, which showed some confidence in Terrence. Terrence got a tough bucket, and LJ Cryer hit back-to-back threes, and they restored order. So this is their first test of adversity this season, and they responded, going on that closing run to win by 10.
Yeah, like you mentioned, that's one of the things I wanted to see with this year's team, how they respond to adversity. And also I mentioned one thing I was going to pay attention to was which lineup was Coach Sampson going to trust in these adverse situations and this game on the line situations. And like you mentioned, Terrence Arsenault went to him in that moment. And just looking at the lineup, Terrence was in the game. JVA really wasn't in the game. And so that tells me is that four guard lineup is going to be a staple within this year's team as the season goes on.
And another thing, Damian Dunn on one of the closeout possessions got the ball at the free throw line, middle of the floor, so he had options to go either right or left, and he hit a bucket when they went zone, that 1-3-1 zone. The Cougs looked like they knew what they were doing, because some fans and us, do they practice going against zone? What are they doing? It looks so out of sorts. Well, Utah went zone down the stretch. Houston had no problems picking that apart, so that's good to see as well.
Will say down the stretch, something that was very alarming and something we're not used to seeing. Jamal Shead, back-to-back turnovers in crunch time. That's something I'm sure Coach Sampson is going to get onto him about, and I'm sure it's something he's going to hold himself accountable about, and something you just can't have going against better competition as the season goes on. Outside of that, he played really well. 4 turnovers in the game, and if I'm not mistaken, last year he was one of the best guards in assist-to-turnover ratio, and so you got to get these turnovers down, and that's something that I will pay attention to because that can lose you a game.
For sure. And Dan and I disagree on this part of it. Coach Sampson kind of touched on a little bit. I think Jamal took the bait. Utah kind of dared him to shoot. He took a lot of shots. First half, he took more shots than LG and anybody else. I don't like that one. I'd rather Jamal facilitate and get more assists and get his teammates involved and then be the closer down the stretch at the end of games. He still took more shots. I think he took 17 shots in the game. That's a little bit too many, but that first half especially, I didn't like the offense, how it flowed in that first half until the final minutes of the first half.
Yeah, Jamal Shead had 14 points. It's like you said, Kris, 6 of 17 from the field, 2 for 6 on his threes, had 5 assists, but he had 4 turnovers and 0 for 3 from the free throw line. Eldrick Cryer also had 14 points, shot 5 for 14 from the field. He was 4 of 9 on his threes. He had 3 assists, no turnovers for him. Emmanuel Sharp actually led the way in points for Houston in this game. He had 15 on 6 of 13 shooting, but those turnovers that Dayon mentioned at the end of the game, a couple bad decisions when they started pressing. The way that they described it in the broadcast was a perfect analogy for it, kind of trying to go for the home run play instead of taking a single when it came to their press, and it bit them a little bit in late down the stretch because they turned that turnover into a 3-point shot. They cut it to 6 and gave Utah some life after it seemed like Houston was in control of the game. And ultimately, Houston still won by double digits, but that's something, like to Dayon's point, come later in the season when they're in those close games during Big 12 conference play, that's something they got to clean up.
When I think it was Debbie Antonelli made the comment about try to go for the home run rather single. That's Coach Sampson speak. We've heard that for years covering the team. Sometimes it's better to just get singles. You don't even get a home run. Just make the simple pass, the simple play. So Jamal's kind of out of character right there down the stretch, those 2 turnovers. Let's talk about Dayon again in previous shows. I said one of the concerns that Houston has been beaten on is a hot guard. An opponent guard play lighting up. Gabe Madsen today was that guard. Utah, he had it going on, knocking down threes. Some of them were contested. Some of them were open from good picks. Utah set some good picks. Mm-hmm. He did a good job moving out the ball. Sometimes you just got to tip your cap to the opponent and say, well done, Gabe Madsen.
Yeah, like you said, some of that was good pick. Some of it was a great ball movement. The way Houston defends, they rotate so much and they double team. If you can catch them in rotation, you move the ball quickly without hesitation, you can get some of those good shots. And if you make them, then that's what's plagued Houston in the past, guards making tough shots, going all the way back to BYU, going back to South Florida, which they didn't lose that game. But the small guard Harris had a big game, going to Kendrick Davis, and even back to the tournament. So that's something that on film, if you can make those shots, whether it's contested or not, you get hot. That's something that you can really do well against Houston defense. But outside of that, you really, like Kris said, you got to tip your cap. He was hot, and they did a good job of feed him. But the one thing that Houston, how they won this game was turning defense into offense, getting turnovers and turning those points off of those turnovers. And that's really how they were able to win this game, because when they turned it over, they was able to get out in transition and get points.
And we could touch on it. Houston was 12 for 24 from the free throw line. My issue, Jamal was 0 for 3. You got to have your guards, especially your point guard, make free throws. JoJo Tugler, right now, I'm not expecting him to be a good free throw shooter. He was 2 for 6, but Jamal Shead going 0 for 3, that's out of character for him. So he'll be okay there. Dayon Dunlap 3 for 4. The guys who you expect to be at the line, that's who you want to make free throws. And today, Jamal didn't do it. Everybody else, bigs, JoJo, JoJo may not be there 6 times in a game for the rest of the year, and based on situations. But, Dayon, let's talk about this. Dayon Dunn having trouble finding his game. Well, before today and yesterday, he had found his game. So he's in the starting lineup right now. So I'm not worried about that at all. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if he's having trouble finding his game. It's just back-to-back games where his shot doesn't fall. You see him make that clutch bucket down the stretch, and so the confidence is there, the ability is there. It's just on a game-to-game basis. You got to get in the rhythm and make some shots. We saw how he started the season, and so it's there. He's still finding his rhythm, still getting back into the rhythm. But I don't necessarily know if he's having trouble finding his game per se.
Yeah,
and that just goes back to the depth of the team. Like Houston doesn't need Dayon Dunn to score 20-plus points each and every single night. Down the stretch today, LJ Cryer hit 2 very clutch back-to-back threes that were pivotal in being able to create the separation. We saw Jamal Shead hit 1 clutch 3, and when Utah started going their zone, started pressing, and I think where Houston found the offense of Kelvin Sampson for the past few years, they do a good job at finding those advantages like we saw down the stretch, not only when they went to zone, Damian Dunn hit the free throw shot, but also they went to Terrence Arsenal down the stretch when he had the size advantage, let him go to work a couple times down the stretch.
It's all part of the 4-guard lineup, 4 guards and Juan Roberts, the big. That matchup, that lineup could cause or probably will cause problems for a lot of teams this year because they're going to spread the floor. As long as they can get rebounds out of that fivesome, that's going to be a go-to lineup, I think, down the stretch.
And I think it's proved that because of Coach Sampson's going to go to who he trusts in these big moments. And that lineup shows me. That was one of the things when we got a question what we're going to be looking for. And that was one of the things I was looking for because it's such an early season. And in my opinion, this is really Houston's first game.
Yeah.
It's really like their first game. And so, and to Kris's point, remember last episode, we talked about what we have seen from Terrence so far this season, his non-hesitation on his shot, still no hesitation and looks good. And so that is another aspect, but I want to see him be a little bit more aggressive, like I said last night. And so Jamal Shead taking 17 shots, most shots on anyone. I'm not really mad at it because a lot of his shots were good and in the rhythm of the offense, but still, I would still like to see other players be a little bit more aggressive. LJ Cryer showing that he's lights out. Big time moments, he's ready. He's going to make those big shots. And like Coach Sampson said, he's the best 3-point shooter on the team, and he gets an open look. You can almost count it.
Yeah, and it was a great look by Juan. Got the ball in the paint, and he kicked it out to LJ in that corner. Splash. That option. This team, we've said it. It's our 5th post-game show for basketball this young season. This team has different ways to win games. This was their first test. They, offense bogged down a little bit. Utah got back in it, tied it up. LJ Cryer, Arsenal, everybody said, no worries, we'll still win this game. And they did by 10. And I think they covered. I want to say somebody said the spread was like 9.5. Andy, is that right?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
It was 9.5.
I think
one
they did
thing,
cover.
Excuse me, Dayon. One thing, refs called it tight. A lot of fouls. Houston got the depth to handle it. Utah went to the line, made enough, but it came down to what the Cougs did down the stretch to close it out and get the victory.
They did cover. The spread was 9.5 points, so they managed to just get the over.
If you care about that.
Now, I was just going to say, giving credit to not only 2 players, J1, I'm sure we'll talk about the post in a minute, but Emmanuel Sharp. I mean, just shows his development from last year. And it reminded me of early in Marcus Sass's career. If his 3-point wasn't falling, then he really wasn't much of a factor. But tonight he went, I think, 1 for 4 from 3, but he still led the team in scoring with 15 points. And that goes to my point when I saw him in the first game, his ability to attack the closeout because teams are wanting to run him off that 3-point line. And now, he's making plays off the dribble, whether it's one dribble pull up, getting all the way inside to his floater game, and him even getting to the free throw line because he's a really good free throw shooter as well. And today he went 2 for 3. And so I'm really loving the overall development of Emmanuel Sharp. And I like him coming off the bench better, in my opinion, from this team. That's not to say that he's not a starter or starter worthy, but I love what he brings the team, bring this year's team off the bench. It's instant offense. And I love that.
It's a good problem to have.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have. And then defensively, got a couple good steals. He's moving active, and I really love what I saw from Emmanuel Sharp today. I really love he's taking that next step, and as he continues to develop, continues to get more confident, I think he's gonna be another player that really can lead this Houston team on a night-to-night basis. But what I really saw is, I know Coach Sampson wants to get Wilson a lot of minutes and not have Jamal Shead play a lot of minutes, but for what I saw, Jamal Shead is really one of the few players. I think Dayon has that capability as well to really ignite the offense. But not only that, play well in pick and roll because teams, the way they were guarding when Jamal was out the bench, Houston had trouble getting into their set and getting into a rhythm offensively. So that's something to keep an eye on.
It was interesting because sometimes it was like LJ did not want to run the offense, and the offense bogged down. It didn't pass. It didn't have ball movement. And Damian Dunn had a chance. He had a possession like with almost 12 seconds left on the clock and just kept the ball. Didn't pass it. Just pounded. Move the ball. Have ball movement, player movement, get better shots. 5th game into the season, just work on it. This was a good test. They got the win. Have another test on Sunday. Yes, Sunday, fans. Not Saturday, Sunday, 7:30 on ESPN against a good Dayton team. That'll be a fun matchup. Looking forward to that one.
Definitely. When it comes to Dayton, what are some things that you could see potentially some matchup problems, matchup woes with Houston? What would you guys be interested in seeing come Sunday in the championship game? It'll be a 7:30 p.m. Central tip-off here on ESPN.
Well, my biggest thing is the Dayton fans. It's a lot of them. Like Coach Sam touched on, it's going to be like a road game for Houston. Deron Holmes is an all-conference player. He could be a matchup problem. Dayton's going to cause some issues. Be another good test for the Cougars. I think the day off will do both teams some good. And I'm hoping for a competitive game from the tip. And the Cougs, I think, will win. I think the depth will wear Dayton down. But we'll see. That's another good test. Javier Francis, we talked about it, him being consistent. Didn't have it today. He had it yesterday. Didn't have it today. See if he bounces back in Sunday's game. Just different ways for this team to win. We were all concerned about Utah's height. Gabe Matson was the one that hurt the Cougs today with his, 8 threes.
Yeah, for Dayton, they really have, like Kris mentioned, they have an all-conference player, and he's a versatile player. He's another big who can stretch the floor. He made a 3 today, but his game is primarily inside the arc from free throw line all the way into the rim. And he's a tremendous player. He can ignite their defense, and so I want to see how they're going to defend him because he's not one of those traditional posts who catch it on the block and then once the defense are going to post him. He'll catch a free throw line, he'll catch it on the block, but he has such a well-rounded game. I think he could give Houston fits. And I really want to see more from JVA. I mean, like Kris said, at last game, he showed times where he's confident and he's thinking quick and he's making tough moves. And then tonight, he really just didn't play many minutes. Yeah. And so when he was out there, I can't say he just didn't play. He didn't play a lot of minutes, so it's hard to really judge him on his play really today. But I want to see more from him. But J1, man, he was a beast. I think we should feature him a little bit more. And one thing he does so well is he does a great job of doing those good power dribbles to get to his left hand, because even though the scouting report saying he's going to get to his left hand, he bangs you so much two good dribbles to get and then getting back to over his right shoulder to his left hand. And so he's mastered that so well, and he's ignited Houston offensively in that first half to really get them going, because they started with, I believe, 1 for 8 and they made like their next 4 for 6 shots. And so, I mean, it really plays back into their depth. It's really not one player that you can say we stop him and we could beat Houston.
Yeah, agreed. I would like to see more touches for Juan in the post, even as facilitator. If some teams double down on him, because they do that, he'll kick it out and open up the perimeter game. Just different ways for this team to win. I keep touching on it, and I forget what point in the game, but did the announcers? Oh no, yeah, the announcers mentioned that Jamal Shead believes this is the best team he's played on at Houston. Did y'all catch that?
I caught that too, and I wonder if that's something he said, or is that just cliche talk? Because that's something you're going to say with your teammates this year. I feel like this is the best team. And so I wonder if he really means that, or if there's something, I wonder where that came from. Because I definitely did. I heard that, Kris, for sure. And who knows? Who knows?
It's still very early, but this team is very different from that Final Four team. They had Justin Gorham, they had Fabian White that was coming off the ACL. They still had Bryson Gresham. They had Reggie Chaney, Quentin Grimes, Marcus Sasser, Dayon Jarreau. I don't know about that. I don't. As of now, still early. I don't know. They're quite at that level, but I think the potential, the ceiling could possibly be there by the time March rolls around. When it comes to the depth and much more, it's a very different team. They're not as necessarily prepared when it comes to the upfront. You have Jawan Roberts. He's solid. but then JoJo Tugler, Javier Francis, there's still some question marks at this point, November 17th, that we're talking.
There's no jobs called.
Whereas, exactly, that was completely different from, even if you want to go to the Elite Eight team, Josh Carlton, that was, again, another veteran-led team. Still way too early to be able to compare, even compared to last year's team.
But it's because it could be. Was he just saying it to be saying it? But it's just, I'm just like little nuggets from Coach Sampson, Jamal Shed, how Coach likes this team. Jamal saying things like that. This team is veteran, has a good mix of young players. Mr. Tugler, it's not Joseph, ESPN, don't put that on the graph. He's JoJo Tugler, JoJo Tugler. That's what he likes to be called, JoJo Tugler. Get him more minutes. Coach tells, it's like, David, if you don't give it to me early, JoJo come in the game. He's confident enough in JoJo early right now. And then JV can come off the bench and get comfortable and do what he didn't do to start the game. So the versatility is there. This team has to get some more experience, but the signs are there. This could be another special team for Houston.
It definitely could. Even if if this team wins the national championship, I still don't know, in my opinion, to be like, oh, they're a better team, they won it. So that's still hard to judge. But like Andy keep reiterating, it's so early, it's really hard to judge. But the post and the lack of depth in the post is something this team hasn't had in the years past. But it makes up for their depth in the guards. But just getting down the line, I mean, you have such a good amount of guards. And then Terrence, he's another X factor because his length and his ability to guard forwards who are quote unquote fours or post players, but nowadays it's a lot of 4 out and 1 in, and so Houston's just kind of playing to the trend in regards to now, but they still hold true to big, because it's not often you see a lot of teams nowadays from NBA to high school have 2 traditional big men, a center and a power forward. Now it's a post player with 4 guards around him. So Coach Sampson, with the roster he has, is realizing the talent he has, and he's playing to the strengths of that. And I think they play really well with that because they get out in transition. They're able to cause more turnovers. They're faster. They're more athletic, and they're able to defend at a high rate because they're so quick and so tenacious.
There's not many Hunter Dickinsons, Zach Eady's, and UConn's Donovan Clingan in college basketball. So it's not like it's a huge issue for Houston to defend low post scoring skilled big men. That's not part of basketball anymore. Low post scoring big men is going away with dinosaurs. I mean, it really is. So Hunter Dickinson, Dayon said, Andy, I'm not sure if you heard Dayon say it, but Dayon said he saw the game against Kentucky. He said he's not worried about Hunter against Houston in terms of matchup and how they defend him and what he can do against Houston. What do you think about that? Because I agree. Yeah.
Still early, but if you look at the track record for Houston, they've done a good job of being able to guard bigs, and I agree. Didn't catch the entire game a couple days ago, but from the glimpses that I saw, there's nothing that Houston hasn't been able to handle in the past, especially when you think of the quality of bigs that they've met in the NCAA tournament in years past.
And again, I want to thank, because the numbers are growing, the viewers are growing. Thank you to tuning in to watch Let's Rage Coogs, presented by the Saxenian family. But one more time, the original post-game show of Houston athletics, Houston football and men's basketball. We are the original. Andy had the idea. We're the first to do it. Other people have started doing it themselves. Thank you for the compliment. But Let's Rage Coogs, number one, we started it.
Often imitated, but we can't be duplicated. And so
yes, sir.
We appreciate you.
We could say we're the only ones that started as a Twitter space. So remember when the Twitter spaces were common. But again, men's basketball and football. So that means we'll be right back tomorrow, potentially around the same time after Houston finishes their senior night. And not to digress too much, but Tillman Fertitta, a victory over Oklahoma State. If you ask Tillman Fertitta,
he said we should beat Oklahoma State.
So we'll see how that goes, roughly around 24 hours. Will be interesting to see for the final home game of the 2023 regular season for the Houston Cougars football team. But sticking to basketball once again, like Kris just mentioned, is Let's Rage Coogs presented by the Saxenian family, and again, the final score: Houston comes out victorious, 76-66 over Utah in the Shriners Charleston Classic to advance to the championship game, which will be Sunday evening, 7:30 p.m. Central Time. And again, top to bottom, the Houston Cougars found a way to execute down the stretch and really come away with a victory. Did a good job closing out both halves, not just the first and second, both halves to be able to come away with that 10-point victory. Overall, we mentioned on the free throw struggles, we kind of touched on Jamal Shedd's turnover struggles, but as a team, the Houston only has 7 turnovers. That was a big positive. And that's something that Kelvin Sampson pointed out at the stat sheet after the game when he was being interviewed by the ESPN broadcast.
Yep, and I want to answer the question from H-Sean Big Dobbs. Malik Wilson is a backup point guard.
He only played 4
minutes. 4 minutes today. I think Coach Sampson, Malik took a 3 in the first half. Was it first half? It was a rush shot. That's not the shot. That's not Malik Wilson's game. Is not 3-point shooting. So Coach sat him down, wanted to go with Jamal. Team's off tomorrow, so Jamal can rest. But Malik Wilson is the team's backup point guard. And then to get to LJ Cryer can run the offense. Dayon Dunn can run the offense. You got different guys behind Jamal who can run the offense when necessary. Anybody?
No, what I was going to say, going back to the original point, what Houston did well about only 7 turnovers as a team. That's a big reason why, even though, again, on a night where they didn't necessarily shoot it lights out and even had their free throw woes, big reason why they were able to come away ultimately with still a double-digit victory.
As long as you don't turn it over, you give yourself a chance.
Yeah.
That's important, because if you miss, the Cougs miss, they can at least get the rebound.
Mm-hmm.
But if you turn it over, you don't give yourself a chance. 7 turnovers, that might be the best number so far these 5 games. Even though the other opponents and the other games really weren't tests like this one, I think this might have been the lowest number so far.
Yeah, and Jamal had 4 of those. And it's not surprising because he has the ball in his hands probably 90% of the time in regards to Houston. And so sometimes you're going to have these games, but just the turnovers that he had down the stretch, those 2 are the ones you got to eliminate. Crunch time turnovers down that moment, because one of them led to a 3, which cut the lead to 6. And so, I mean, I know there's something Coach Sampson and we'll talk to him about. Coach Jamal Shead is such a smart player. He'll realize in that moment he can't make those type plays. But is it fatigue? What was it that made him those type of plays? Because Coach Sampson reiterated last season, oftentimes they played Jamal 2 minutes. And to the question, who's the backup point guard, Malik has to step up and play better to enable Coach Sampson to feel more confident to leave him on the floor longer. Because when I was watching him tonight, there was just certain moments he bring the ball up the court and pick and roll action. They go under the screen or he get past the defender. Just do your free throw line floater. And so I think as he watches films and he gets more comfortable, we will see his game to develop and to flourish. Because when they were overseas, he played so exceptional, lights out. I'm like, okay, he can be the X factor of this team because he can do so much on the floor. And so I'm not really too worried about him. I think as the season goes on, he gets his niche and kind of figures out how he can impact this team on a game-to-game basis. We will see more from him.
And that's a great point. 33 minutes for Jamal Shead, and like we touched on, only 4 minutes for Malik Wilson. It might be something. And coming off the heel, played a game last night too, so that could definitely have been something that played a factor late down the stretch.
And one thing Coach Sampson did mention to the announcers after the game, that some guys Sunday will probably play more minutes, and maybe that will be Malik will be one of those guys.
No Ramon Walker. No Ramon Walker today either.
Which kind of surprised me. But again, coach to use 9 players a day. I think Malik will get minutes Sunday. Ramon probably get more minutes. Well, some on Sunday as well, and get back to a 10-man rotation. Which is just another example of the depth of this team. Ramon Walker is an energy guy, provides things that sometimes is lacking. Rebounding, tough defense, another physical player up front. possibly at that power forward spot. Didn't play today.
Definitely, I want to poke says good evening from the Fertitta Center. The UH volleyball team's gonna be hosting Iowa State, so a lot going on when it comes to UH athletics. I mean, we touched on everything. Is there anything else that we need to touch on going forward? We already previewed Dayton, touched on the guards, Terrence, Jawan. What's left?
I want to, commend Jawan Roberts, 12 rebounds, had a game high 12 rebounds. And we said it again. If you're tuning in late to this edition of the show, we thought he should have got more touches. Only got 6 shot attempts. I had to get him around 10. 10
And
shots
he had his double-double in the first half, right? And so if I'm not mistaken, he didn't score in the second half.
Yeah, let me check. Because you might be right.
He did. Well, he close. 11 points, 8 rebounds at halftime.
Okay. So he had 2 more points in the second half. And some of that as a post player, you got to get in position and demand the ball. But like Coach Sam said, he does a great job of calling sets. Sometimes I think when it slows down and the game is kind of getting chaotic, go to him a little more for sure.
So, we're just nitpicking at stuff. At a team that's 5-0, ranked 6th in the country, coming off what we think is their best win to date this young season over a good Utah team and a future Big 12 member, Utah. So, well, if you don't mind, guys, if I can, I want to get your thoughts on Dan, because I know I haven't asked you about this. What are your thoughts on, this is not Cougar related, this is Big 12 related. What are your thoughts on Commissioner Brett Yormark's really push, because it's him doing it, push to get Gonzaga to join the Big 12?
In basketball?
Well, he wants basketball. Gonzaga wants to join in all sports.
Does Gonzaga have football?
No,
they don't, right?
No.
I would love it. I mean, I would love it. It would power the Big 12 even more, because they keep showing the graphic from the last couple of years that Gonzaga has the best winning percentage in front of Houston. So basketball-wise, it would strengthen the Big 12. I'm all for it even more. And so, I mean, I would love it. He's doing a great job of innovating the Big 12, making it different. I love the belt, the WWE partnership with them in the belt. And so he's finding different ways to innovate the Big 12. And I love it because he's connecting with the youth even more. We see the women's basketball team have their belts, in which I love those little things I don't want to say it ignites players even more, but they look forward for their recognition to have the belt. And so, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I think they definitely should be in a Power 5 conference in basketball. I haven't seen much of the other sports, but basketball, for sure. Bring them on in.
And you touched on the graphic. For the last few years, it's Gonzaga, Houston, and then Kansas. So imagine you having all three in the Big 12 for basketball. That'd be something else. Now, it's got to come down to TV networks, and if they're willing to pay, financially to make sense to the president of the Big 12, because the commissioner wants it. He wants it for sure. He's wanted it for months. We'll see if it, because George Duarte reported again that talks have resumed. I'm not sure what's changed from anybody's perspective but Brett Yormark's. He's won it for a while, and he's a minority of one, but he's still pushing it, apparently.
And for basketball, at least, they would achieve the goal of being a coast-to-coast conference.
Yes. Yeah. And it would, I guess, I don't know how to kneecap or keep them from joining the Pac-2, which will become the Pac/Mountain West at some point in the next 2 years. But if you get Gonzaga in the Big 12, don't have to worry about them with Oregon State, Washington State, and whatever his teams are in the renamed, whatever it's going to be. It's going to probably still be the hope to keep the Pac-12 name for the branding, but most other teams will be from the Mountain West. What do you think about Michael Jones' comment right here? He didn't like that we stopped attacking the basket.
I think, again, that goes back to fatigue, honestly. Not to make it an excuse, but the length when it came to Utah as well definitely played a factor. I think it was interesting when it came to the rebounding totals. Houston didn't necessarily dominate At least when it comes to how we've been accustomed to the last few years. And that's a testament to the youth and how well they played. But only, 39, 38 rebounding advantage of one single rebound. That's not something that we see too often with the Houston Cougars when it comes to their opponents.
And they were a smaller team. You're going against a team that got 2 7-footers, the tallest team in the country, or one of the top tallest teams in the country. And so, not really so much of rebounding, but I do agree with his point in regards to attacking the basket. And I think mentally, with them missing so many free throws, maybe that played a part in it as well, and not wanting to go to the free throw line, but maybe not. But then it's about what the defense shows you, what the defense brings, and being able to react. But just Jamal taking 17 shots, in my opinion, I don't like it. I don't like it. It's not a knock on him to say that he can't, his offensive ability, he can't make those shots. But 17 shots, I think you disperse that from better scores on the team. There are better scores than Jamal Shead on the team. I will confidently say that. And so you can spread that around to some of the other scores, then I'll feel more confident in that.
And part of attacking the basket does not mean you have to take the layup. You penetrate the defense and kick it out to an open man in the corner. You get open shots that way too.
Because Terrence did that when he was able to get inside the zone and hit it to LJ on his second consecutive threes that he made.
So, that's a way. So I agree they stop attacking, but instead of trying to finish over those 7-footers sometimes, kick it out to an open teammate and knock down, because this Houston team has some knockdown 3-point shooters.
Like we saw down the stretch.
Exactly.
Dayon, were you going to say something?
No. Nope. I agree with you guys for sure.
This is good. This is part of, we've gone almost 40 minutes. Let's Rage Coogs. Got people watching us, people commenting. Fans, don't be shy about your comments. This is basketball. This is the winning Cougs, part of the program, of that athletic program. Football, we got hot and heavy comments about the football team. You can comment on basketball, what you like, didn't like. Think about this year's team. Thoughts on Coach Sampson liking this team and saying it a lot. The potential matchup against Dayton. What are you curious about seeing in this coming Sunday's game at 7:30 on ESPN?
I wouldn't say anything. Sorry, I wouldn't say anything specific, but I think it's a cool opportunity. It's a good opportunity overall. When it comes to the team, they've been on the road since they left on Tuesday. So they've been together for pretty much the whole week by the time they leave. Charleston come the end of Sunday. I'd imagine they probably leave right after the game Sunday night. It's a good team bonding experience, and that's something that even last season, I'm not sure if they ever had an entire week just isolated whenever they went to any one particular location, which that's nothing that you're going to see on the court per se, but that's something that could benefit the team tremendously as they continue to head into December and even into the meat of conference play.
And Andy, you touched on it. You mentioned it about fatigue. The Cougs played Saturday, Monday, Thursday, and today. So that's a lot of games in a short amount of time. So being off, no game on Saturday, I think will benefit them to help them really get re-energized, recharged for Sunday night's game against Dayton.
And it's early in the season, and like we talked about, Kris, these type of tournaments, these type of stretch of games prepare them for what's to come later in the season when they get into the NCAA tournament. And so these moments are teaching moments and experience moments that you can draw back to. And remember when we play such and such games in a certain amount of days, we know we can do it. And now this is how we prepare. This is how we recover and recoup. And so I'm just ready for the game I appreciated this game because I wanted Houston to be challenged. I wanted to see some form of adversity. I got a group chat with a lot of my frat brothers, and they were kind of worried, like, why are we with Houston? And I know some of them are casual fans, don't necessarily watch every game. And so I really didn't even say too much. I knew Houston would pull away. And for me, like I said, this was really, in my opinion, like their first game.
Yeah, I was just curious. I wasn't worried about whether they won or not. I want to see how they finished.
Right.
Who coach ended the game with. That's what I wanted to see.
Yep.
And we saw that. So, hey, 5-0 is 5-0. Or 1-0 against really good teams, good competition, good test.
Yep.
Was this a quad two victory?
The NCAA won't start the quad rankings, I think, until the first Tuesday in December, something like that. They'll have enough games
It'll be a while.
for the formula to
to see
get some good
who's really
info.
who. Yeah, to see who's really who and how they play against one another. It makes sense.
I think it'll do. By the time that they get enough games under the belt, at minimum, it'll probably be a quad two win. And Kelvin was high on Utah again, like we saw after the game. Says they're going to be a really good team in the Pac-12.
And they could be a quad two as well.
He does a great job of bigging up his opponents. He's been doing that since American. First the American. I don't care what their record is. He's going to big up his opponent.
Yes. and he doesn't have to do it in the Big 12, but he'll probably do it for Big 12 teams too. But he always, whoever they're playing the American, they got songs of this. They're this. They're this.
Yeah.
Coach, and if you ask Coach off the record, Coach, that team is like 5-12. I'm always going to promote the conference. I'm always going to promote the conference because if I don't do it, who will?
And not only that goes in when these people are in consideration of where Houston should be ranked in regards to seeding, they listen to those type of words. And some of them actually listen to that. And so they'll take some of his words into consideration. Like, you know what? He's right. They are this, they are that. And so power up to Coach Sam, man, for sure.
It's all about, his experience. He knows how the game works. What is it now? 35, 36 years. He knows how it works.
Mm-hmm.
You want to wrap it up? Let's wrap it up and get ready for tomorrow. It's going to be interesting.
Senior night. It'll be interesting to see the turnout for the senior night after the.
We got cool fans in the house. What y'all expecting for football tomorrow? I know we're talking basketball tonight, but can we get a couple comments on what you guys expecting for the game tomorrow? What you guys expecting? Oklahoma State coming off a loss.
Will they be at?
Great question. Will you guys be at the game? What's up?
I'm curious that myself. Who's going to be at the game? What season ticket holders are going to keep their ticket and show up at the game? Which fans went on the other market and get tickets for $4? What bucket are you in? The season ticket bucket, or I'm buying my ticket $4, man? So has anyone told Andy?
Oh, buffet.
It's buffet. Buffet. Yeah. Yeah. Mr. Smith says I'm expecting us to get ran on 200+ yards for their back. Wow.
Yeah, because their running back leads the nation in running, and he is serious. He for real. He for real.
He's the real deal.
He the real deal.
And Oklahoma State, I do not expect them to have 2 bad games in a row.
No.
So it might be just Houston in the wrong place, wrong time tomorrow for Oklahoma State because they need the win to keep their chances alive to get
the Big 12 championship. Yeah.
The Cougars are trying to stay alive for being bowl eligible.
Mike Jones say he's going to the game. Okay, big up to Mike Jones.
Not expecting much though, but thank you for going though, Mike.
It could be an opportunity for Houston to beat. And correct me if I'm wrong. Their first ranked opponent since SMU into the 2021 season. Is that the last time they beat a ranked opponent?
That sounds about right. Yeah.
Yep.
Ferguson and Dayton's going to find a way to get a miracle win, then lose at UCF, end up being one of those 5-7 bowl teams.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Because you don't know what team's going to show up.
You never know.
So which Cougar team will show up Saturday? That has been one of the questions we've wondered this whole season.
Yeah.
Because they could win tomorrow and then lose at UCF.
Right. Yeah.
But either way, we'll talk about it on Let's Rage Coogs.
Yeah, either way, join us to rage, man. Whether they win, get blew out, or whatever the case.
And tomorrow we will have Dana Holgerson footage. So it'll be the first time in a while. We'll see whatever Dana Holgerson has to say after whatever the outcome of the game is.
Come on, Andy. If they lose.
We know it's Big 12. Oh, yeah.
Big 12 football. Year one.
It's Big 12 football, yeah. But
we will see it here on Let's Rage Coogs, the unofficial Houston postgame show for football and men's basketball. like we said now, the original Houston postgame show presented by the Saxenian family. I'll go first. People can find me on X at Yanez_5. Be sure to subscribe to, if you're watching, whatever platform you're watching, whether it be on the Podslam Jamma YouTube channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button down below. If you're watching on the Houston Roundball Review YouTube channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button on that channel as well. Kris, I'll toss it over to you. You take it up, sir.
Thank you, young man. I'm Kris Gardner, Houston Roundball Review. Follow me on the platforms, Houston Roundball Review on YouTube and Spoutable and Threads and Instagram and TikTok, all those things. Thank you, everybody, once again, for joining us, taking time out of your night life schedule to be part of the Let's Rage Coogs show. We appreciate it. Spread the word. Tell everybody about us, because we're going to say it as long as necessary. We are the original post-game show for Houston athletics, football, men's basketball. Join us Saturday. Dayon, you got it.
Kris, I love your moniker. Local name, global perspective. I love that. 1000%. I love that. But like Kris just said, man, we appreciate you all for joining us. Friday night, you guys are here tuning in and tapping in with us. So I can't say it enough. We can't reiterate it enough. We appreciate the support 1000%. You can follow me on all social media platforms like it shows on the screen at Dayon Dunlap. Look forward to tomorrow, then Sunday. A lot of Cougs, a lot of raging to do. Let's go Cougs, always.